Colonel Stephen O'Donnell as reappointment as the Director of Public Safety. We do have a couple of people who are signed up. I would just ask anyone in the room before we start the hearing if they wish to speak on this nomination. There are sign-up sheets over to our left, your right. If you can just fill one out. The process we're going to do, we're going to call the witnesses, and then we're going to have the Colonel speak. So the first witness we'll call is Kobe Dennis.
How are you?
I wonder what they want you over there because they have the mic set up over there.
Thank you. I get to see less of the big guys. No, this is right here. I'm not going anywhere.
Good afternoon and welcome.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me. And I was going to be brief, but since I waited here for an hour and a half, I'm going to take a long time.
Sometimes brevity is good.
I'm just getting even with you guys. Just joking. My name is Kobe Dennis, and I'm here to speak on behalf of Stephen O'Donnell, and it's an honor to be here. About 4 years ago, exactly, I was in this same seat, boxed in, speaking on behalf of the past Superintendent Brendan Doherty. And before that work, before I got in this seat, 2 years before that, we had been working out in the streets of Providence, doing a lot of community work before we officially made a community division, I guess, before the Colonel actually officially made a community liaison for the state police that I knew of anyway. So when Brendan Doherty moved on, I'm not sure how the conversation went, but I'm sure it was something like, I got a friend named Kobe, you need to meet him, and hopefully you'll do some work with him. So, Brendan passed that on to myself, and then I didn't know Stephen O'Donnell, had seen him in the sports circuit, actually, and so I'm doing a lot of good things with kids. When we finally met, we actually met for the first time with a group of community leaders. Actually, some of the leaders that are sitting there are in the back, which is a great representation of the work that the Colonel is doing. So when we met, the first thing he told me is sustainability, Kobe. That's what I'm all about. We're gonna do programs. We're gonna meet people. We're gonna have forums and so on and so forth. And I'll be honest, I left that day and I didn't believe half of what he said. To this day, 4 years, fast forward, we have done at least 20 community forums. We've spoke to tens of thousands of young people. We've spoke to so many audiences from Providence to South County and back. We've impacted plenty of families through Kids Cops in Classrooms, through Kids Cops in Christmas. We've been in the community just as he said we would be. And that word sticks in my head the most when I think of Stephen O'Donnell. I think of sustainability, and I actually pass that on to the community all the time because it's easy to say it, but you definitely have to get the people that you're saying it to believe it. And the only way you can get them to believe it is to keep on doing the work that you say you're going to do. So I want to just say here today that Colonel Stephen O'Donnell has done the work that he said he was going to do. He was went above and beyond for myself, and I can say that I'm here speaking on behalf of the community. And when I say the community, I mean the impoverished community, the community that really doesn't get to come to things like this, the community that doesn't know things like this even go on or exist, as I didn't 4 years ago. So once again, I appreciate you guys having me. Please let this man continue to do his job because he's doing it very well, and thank you.
Are there any questions or comments for this witness? Senator Metz.
Yes, I just want to welcome Kobe. I know his family well. Grew up with his mother and his aunts and everybody and watched him grow up as a young man. We're very proud of you, and keep up the good work that you do with the youth in the community because he's a leader already. I don't want to call him a future leader. And I ain't going to be here forever. I want you to move to my district.
Thank you, Senator Metz.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments for this witness? Thank you. The next witness we'll call is Gabriella Batty.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon and welcome.
Thank you. I guess I should start like Kobe did and kind of tell you how I met the Colonel. I've worked in MAD for 25 years. I now work at DOT. But when I was at MAD, part of my job was to work with all the colonels, and I started with Colonel Culhane, who then introduced me to Colonel Parry. And one of the programs I wanted to do with Colonel Parry, he couldn't do it, and he said, I'd like you to work with my major, Major O'Donnell. And I had met Major O'Donnell, and I'd seen him twirl around and get so many things done, but I wasn't sure if I could handle his energy. But he accepted the challenge, and I was just amazed at his energy, but also his commitment. And to his credit, when Colonel Parry left and Colonel Doherty was named, out of the blue, I had worked with Colonel Parry for so long that we were worried as a victim organization that we would do the continuum of it. But I knew Colonel Doherty was going to do that, but for no need at all, and it wasn't his responsibility. But I remember being in Target in Smithfield, because that's where I shop, and out of the blue I got this phone call from Major O'Donnell, and he was just calling me in the busyness of his day to assure me that I could honestly assure all of the victims and people I worked with at MAD, and me personally, that, under the leadership of Colonel Doherty, we could expect the highest caliber of attention to impaired driving and occupant protection that we had received with the other two colonels. And it wasn't because he was Colonel Doherty's fan, it's because he knew of what Colonel Doherty stood for, but it was something that he stood for, and in his position he could, help to support that. I've known Colonel O'Donnell as a dad. I've watched him with his sons. It's amazing. I've watched him with his lovely wife as a husband. I'm always impressed with that, too. I'm really impressed with Holly, quite frankly. But I've watched him with the victims that we've worked with. My goal in life has always been about safety, keeping people safe, being safe. I came to MAD because I wanted to keep my kids safe. And there's not one part of Stephen O'Donnell that doesn't stand tall and not only sustain it, but he's probably one of the most reassuring voices and presence in our state when it comes to safety for everyone. Not just the men and women that work for him, although that's really big on him, not just the community people, not just his family. Everyone he meets, there's no difference. And I find that reassuring, and I think that's why he sustains his great reputation. And I'm no longer with MAD, so I can't speak on behalf of MAD, but I'd like to speak on the people from MAD that I've worked with that recognize him as a leader and as a personal friend and mentor to me. I would highly encourage a confirmation on his behalf. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments for this witness? Thank you. The next witness we'll call is Douglas Kalinda.
Chairman, members of the committee, my name is Douglas Kalinda. I'm here to speak on behalf of Colonel O'Donnell. I'm here to support Colonel Stephen O'Donnell for reappointment as the Commissioner of the Department of Public Safety for the state of Rhode Island. I've been friends with Colonel O'Donnell for 40 years. Steve and I met my freshman year in high school on the lacrosse field. We were playing against each other, and our teams were rivals. What I saw in OD was an athlete who outworked and outhustled every player on the field. Steve earned the respect of his teammates and opponents because of his work ethic and integrity as a player. Since high school, our friendship has grown, and I consider Steve my brother and best friend. We both have been there for the moments when we graduated from college, met our wives of 25 years. We have been in each other's wedding parties. We shared the joy of the birth of our children. We're each godfathers to each of us, our sons. We have gone through sickness of our parents together. We have cried together the death of our parents. We have seen our sons grow from birth up to become men and to be respectful men. We have had the joy and honor of aging together. We have talked almost every day for the past 40 years, and I'm a blessed person for having Steve as my best friend and brother. I had the honor of having Steve as my lacrosse coach at Providence College. As a coach of Division I college lacrosse, Steve was one of the best college coaches in the country. Several players on our team had not played many years of lacrosse prior to college and lacked the experience our other Division I opponents had. However, Coach O'Donnell brought our team to a very high level. On our first year with him, we were 9-3 and beat some of the top-rated teams. Our victories came because of Coach O'Donnell's work ethic that he taught all of us. We outran and out-hustled every team we played. We were the best conditioned team in the country. Coach O'Donnell training sessions were the best I've ever had and made us a great team. Most important, Coach O'Donnell taught us to respect and believe in each other and work together as teammates. As a coach, he was a great leader and brought the best out of all of us. Today, Providence College Lacrosse is an excellent program which owes much of its growth to Coach O'Donnell. Steve continues his greatness as a coach and leader coaching LaSalle Lacrosse, where he has won 3 state championships. I have been on the sidelines during games and at Steve's high school lacrosse practices. Steve is one of the top lacrosse coaches in the country and could coach Division I college lacrosse anywhere in the country. Steve is more than a coach to high school players. Steve is a role model that teaches players not only the game, but the importance of hard work and teamwork. Most important, Coach O'Donnell teaches his players how to act with dignity and respect, both on the field and off the field. Colonel O'Donnell's law enforcement career started as a correctional officer at the ACI. Steve worked very hard learning how to be an excellent correctional officer. Additionally, Steve learned the habits and mannerisms of some very hardened criminals that he would later use at his undercover work as a detective. Steve later became a police officer in North Kingston. In 1987, Steve became a Rhode Island State Trooper and was a patrol trooper for 3.5 years. In 1990, Steve joined the Detective Intelligence Unit. From 1990 to 1996, Steve worked undercover. Steve's undercover work is legendary. His top undercover work has been highlighted on national news and recognized nationally as some of the best undercover work ever done. Steve O'Donnell was able to go undercover against some of the most dangerous criminals in the country. He infiltrated the Rhode Island Mafia and became one of their own. On a daily basis, Steve's undercover work put himself in danger, and yet he did his job without hesitation. As a result of his hard work and undercover investigations, many dangerous criminals were arrested and convicted. Steve was recognized by President Clinton and Vice President Gore as a top cop in the nation and Trooper of the Year. Colonel O'Donnell was promoted through the ranks. As a lieutenant, he oversaw the high-intensity drug trafficking task force. This task force is a state, local, and federal task force targeting drug traffic organizations. Furthermore, as lieutenant, he was in charge of the traffic planning unit. Colonel O'Donnell graduated from the FBI National Academy. He was then promoted to captain in charge of the detectives. Steve was then promoted to the position of administrative major in charge of all administrative functions, including budgets and training. In this position, Steve was a number 3 ranked position on the state police. 1 year later, Colonel O'Donnell was promoted to the number 2 position on the Rhode Island State Police, serving as lieutenant colonel and deputy superintendent. Steve served as the second command for Colonel Parry. Upon Colonel Parry's retirement, Steve was acting superintendent and deputy superintendent under Colonel Doherty. While on the state police, Steve received 48 commendations for meritorious services, a Silver Star for bravery, dozens of commendations from outside agencies. Additionally, Steve received commendations from Governor Almond, U.S. Attorney Whitehouse, Attorney General Pine. Steve retired in 2009 with 23 years in the Rhode Island State Police and was appointed the United States Marshal for the District of Rhode Island by President Obama. In May of 2011, Steve returned to the Rhode Island State Police as Superintendent of the State Police and was confirmed by the Rhode Island Senate as the Public Safety Commissioner. Steve left an excellent high-paying job and pension to return to the Rhode Island State Police because Colonel O'Donnell believes in what the state police is about and their mission. Throughout his prestigious career, Steve has been supported by his wonderful wife of 25 years, Holly. Holly has been with Steve for many sleepless nights that Steve worked undercover and supported him. Holly has been an incredible wife and a loving mom to their 3 sons, Connor, Cody, and Brady. I have seen Connor, Cody, and Brady grow into very respectful and successful men. Connor, Cody, and Brady have been nationally recognized lacrosse players and leaders on their teams. They are all gentlemen and great guys. Connor is now a Rhode Island State Police Trooper and extremely hardworking. Cody and Brady are now attending Bryant together and playing on the lacrosse team together, which is nationally ranked and went to the Final 4 national championships. As a dad, Steve has been and is an incredible role model. My sons and I have done many things with Steve and his 3 boys since birth. I've witnessed how all 3 of his sons, whom I consider family, grow and succeed. Steve and Holly have done a beautiful job raising these men. I finish my support today of Colonel O'Donnell by saying that Colonel O'Donnell has the highest level of integrity, honor, and ethics. Steve has compassion and understanding. OD is a great leader that inspires those around him to work hard and brings the best out of everyone. Steve was raised by wonderful parents who taught him that honor, integrity, loyalty, and respect are most important. Every day, Colonel O'Donnell works extremely hard and serves the state of Rhode Island with dignity, respect, honor, integrity, and leadership. I am honored and it is with great pleasure I support my dear friend and brother, Colonel O'Donnell, for reappointment as the Commissioner of the Department of Public Safety for the state of Rhode Island. Thank you.
Are there any questions or comments for this witness? Senator Lombardo. Lombardi.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to welcome you, Doug, an old friend. You say 40 years, and our friendship goes back so far that the building isn't there anymore, St. John's Church on the hill.
Midnight Mass.
That's right.
Back in the 60s, I remember.
It's great to see you again. I don't remember you this talkative. I remember you were more here. But I will tell you, I certainly, the Colonel's accomplishments and reputation precede him, but your commentary serves to only reinforce my suspicions already. Thank you, Doug.
Appreciate that.
Are there any other questions or comments? Thank you. The next witness we'll call is Julius Kalawol.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon and welcome.
My name is Julius Kolawole. I will not bore you with everything that you've heard about Steve, but I will give you a few examples why I think he should be reappointed. I've lived in Rhode Island for about 26 years. And in those years, until 2 years ago, in my community, we don't share space, we don't share time with a trooper or a police until I met him. Everything that you've heard about him is true, and he has proven that. In the last 2 years, when I request for his presence, I was very surprised the first time was 8 a.m. At 5 minutes to 8, he was there waiting. And I was wondering whether he slept or not. But over the last few years, every time I request in my community, he shows up. And last year was another interesting year. I get the opportunity to introduce him to people from Rwanda, Burundi, Bhutanese, and so on and so forth. I'm not sure many of you know about all those people, but he can tell you a little more about them. So please, for the sake of many of us who live in this community, I think he needs to be reappointed. One more point, and it's just a simple example. What he has done has rubbed on me. I was at a restaurant a couple of months ago, maybe weeks ago, and a couple of the troopers walked in, some in uniform, some not in uniform. Instead of me keeping my distance, I got up to say hello to them. And that is a testimony to what he has done. I'm going to make my comments very brief, but I think he needs to be reappointed. He has more work to do, at least especially in my community. Thank you. Thank you, Colonel.
Senator Metz.
Yes, Julius, thank you for coming. And Julius, he's a pillar in our community, a valuable asset. And I thank you for all that you do and supporting the community, supporting me. We're glad to see you. Thank you for your testimony.
Are there any other questions or comments? Thank you. The next witness we have is Reverend David Rodriguez. Good afternoon and welcome, Reverend.
Hey, thank you. Good evening. My name is Reverend David Rodriguez, and I'm here on behalf of the Hispanic Ministerial Association of Rhode Island. I'm the president. And in behalf of all our 35-plus churches in the state of Rhode Island, we are here to support this nomination of Colonel Stephen O'Donnell. For our community, he's a friend that has been shown a high commitment to have a relationship of openness and understanding for our community. And the relationship, as we, these 4 years, have been evaluating, has been increased, a good relationship with the law enforcement, especially the state police. His office is open for, things that sometimes is hard to deal with. And but he's been open to that. That's why we call him a friend of our community, and we are 100% supporting his nomination.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments? Senator Metz.
Yes, I want to welcome my dear friend Pastor Rodriguez, and thank you for coming to the Senate. His church he moved his church into my district, and I certainly appreciate your prayers on my behalf. So good to see you, Pastor.
Thank you. At this point, we'll call Colonel Stephen O'Donnell. Good afternoon and welcome, Colonel.
Good afternoon.
At this point, we'd like to have you tell us a little bit about you that hasn't already been said this afternoon, and give us an idea of where you think the Department of Public Safety is going to be headed in the next couple of years with you as the leader of the organization.
Certainly. First, I want to thank you for having us here today. I want to thank the people who spoke on my behalf and the people that are here in support of me. I really can't say and repeat what they said, so I'll just leave that without saying. Direction of state police, where we're going as the future goes. I believe in our computer crimes unit. It's probably going to be our lead for the next decade or so, based on everything that happens with with the internet. We need bodies to go there, people that work there. We have computer specialists that work inside there that have to see things that nobody that sits in front of me to my right or left should have to see. And these are cops, and I say that respectfully. They're members of the state police. They're also local police officers assigned to us. So the future, we believe, is bright. You see the State Police Command staff, most of them to my right. One of them's representing me today, and one of the things we do, the New England State Police colonels meet every 3 months, and today is their meeting, and I had to miss the meeting. It was a choice between this or that, so my deputy superintendent is up in Concord, New Hampshire, meeting with them today. So the direction we're going is that we have a safety function that Gabriel Body mentioned, that I believe in our mission. I believe that we've mapped accidents. We're a little bit more progressive. We find where we have problems on the highways and the roadways. We talk to the local police departments where they have the same problems. We put people to those problems. I think this year is a resounding success. We dropped from 65 fatals to 54 last year. That's a huge drop in the amount of fatalities. One fatality is too many, but we believe by mapping accidents, tracking where drunk drivers are, impaired operators, putting resources to them, that's one of the directions we're going to continue to go on. So those are some of the major initiatives we have. We have task forces we work. Our drug task force is state, local, federal agency working together. Very, very busy. But again, back to computer crimes and major crimes, we have a lot of things happening with our state police. The Department of Public Safety, from the Capitol Police, what provide you security in this building, to the sheriffs who provide judges security, to our fire marshals who need a lot of help. They have a lot of experts doing much, much more with less, and all the other public safety partners we have. So I think we're going in a good direction. Why? Because you got people like that to my right. They care. There's not a better workforce in, I'd say, the world than the men and women around state police. And I mean that with every ounce of vigor. They're smart, bright, dedicated, the most outstanding workforce you can get anywhere. And again, I mean that. But they believe that too, which matters. And the last thing I'll leave you is the community piece. Under Brendan Doherty's leadership, we jumped into relationships, started with Kobe, and I think Kobe needs to take a lot of credit for that, and it's morphed into something that's really unbelievable. It's wherever you go, as Julius said, I met people from countries I didn't even know existed. I'm a 54-year-old semi-educated person, and there were people from countries that I really didn't know existed in this country that are here in Rhode Island. And Julius will tell you when they first met us, they were running out the doors because they're intimidated, scared by uniforms. Not particularly ours, but they came from countries. My friend Shinavi, who fled Cambodia to get to a better life, and she has a story that she could tell you someday, but she's here. And so collaborating. The collaboration is something, I mean that. When Kobe said sustainability, I believe in sustainability. I told him, if I can't sustain it, I don't want to do it because we'll lose credibility. It's hard to sustain community relations with lack of people sometimes, but our troopers buy into it. If you watch, go on Kobe's Facebook, you have young troopers in the middle of Chad Brown not doing enforcement, doing outreach, talking to people. They go to Woonsocket, they go to Westerly, they're in Cranston, they're wherever there's an issue. Providence is the issue mostly because that's where most of the violence happens. So anybody that can help us. David Rodriguez, the first time I met him, he was a little hesitant, his best way to describe relationship. So, and even our friend Senator Metz, he came to our Citizens Academy. We have a Citizens Trooper Academy. We bring people in, and not all of them really understand the state police. So we try and educate them. This is what we do. We're very proud as an organization of what we do. There's really nothing better than that. And last but not least, I really want to thank Dougie. I know, Senator, you know him. When we know Dougie, it's a big smile on our face. And I know the Senator Board knows him. That's an icon of Rhode Island that happened to move up into Massachusetts as a business here in Rhode Island. And last but not least, my beautiful wife, Holly, who supported me through a lot of different things that were going on in this crazy business that we call law enforcement. So I think we're going in a great direction. I look at the senator smiling, but I smile because right there, if they're not sitting in front of you, the group at 2 or 3 years younger than them, a group 2 or 3 years younger than them, 2 or 3 youngers, they're all stars. And you're in good shape with the members of Rhode Island State Police, separate and apart from the person talking to you. So I thank you, and I'll take any questions you have.
Are there any questions or comments for the Colonel at this point in time? Before I recognize Senator Metz, I'd like to recognize here today Colonel Doherty in the audience, and that shows some support for Colonel O'Donnell. Senator Metz.
Yes, Colonel, it's just an honor for me to be associated with you, and I appreciate going to that academy, the Citizens Academy, and learning the intricate workings of the state police. But for me, it's your work on bringing the law enforcement and the community together, because for our communities to be successful, there has to be a building of trust and a building of relationship to make it better for everyone, and you're committed to that. And I really appreciate your commitment for that, because I've learned being up here over the years that when the commitment is at the top, it filters all the way down. And you're very humble. One of the things I want to thank you is the Comprehensive Police Community Act that passed the Senate last year. So hopefully we'll get it through both sides this year. But I know that if it wasn't for you and the Providence Police Department, Commissioner Parry, that legislation, getting the support of the different law enforcement, the different union officials, and the police chiefs and everyone else, if it hadn't have been for your leadership and commitment, helping out the community, that legislation would have went anywhere. And I really want to thank you for that, because you're very humble. Not too many people know that, but if it wasn't for your commitment, that legislation would have never passed. And certainly, as events turned out here lately, with all the stuff that's going on now, and the tensions and what's going on in the news and everything like that, we certainly need that legislation. But it's going to take commitments, like Kobe said, from the community and law enforcement working together to make this a better place for us all. And I just want to thank you for your commitment to that.
Thank you.
Are there any other comments? Senator Archibald, then Senator Lombardi.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Colonel, first and foremost, as a fellow Smithfield guy, I've known you for some time, and as I reflect on your character, I see a man who, as Senator Metz just amplified on, has, for all of his accomplishments, everything that you've done, and all the laurels that we've heard praised here, has stayed humble. And that humility, I think, is the greatest mark of your character, because it's what gets other people in outlying communities, the outliers, to believe in you, that natural charisma. When Julian will come from a country where, in Rwanda, where there was genocide, the Hutus and the Tutsi, just massive loss, and God, my prayers with you for that. That is an old wound that still is yet to heal. When you can tap to that community and have the empathy and the full respect, it's a perfect reflection of your character, perfect reflection. So, I mean, I know from my own experience in working with you in my first term here on legislation with Gabby Abadi on the interlock bill I poured my heart and soul into, you were there for your commentary and for your feedback. That's important, because, you know, a lot of this stuff, they talk about legislation and the process of it as being like sausage, and it's difficult to pull together multidimensional pieces of government and put them into something that's sound for the people. But you're networked through your vast experience. You left a remarkable federal job at a pay cut to come to the state police because it's in your heart. You love the job. It's all over you, but you're humble. And so when I look at you, what I'm most impressed with beyond everything is the humility. Some people, they get caught up in who they are and the power, and you know, we're all human. You haven't done that. You've stayed who you are. You're the same guy I've always known, and you are when I see you out of here, and you are when I see you in the uniform. So I respect you greatly for that. Please keep up the good work. But I'm really impressed today that all of these outlying communities, as diverse as they are here on your behalf. That's a reflection of you. And you're making policing into the image and the model that it should be in the 21st century. So congrats. You have my full support. I'm proud to say today that you're going to be the colonel of the state police again.
Thank you.
Senator Lombardi.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Colonel, welcome. I just want to correct Senator Archibald first. You're not really a Smithfield guy as much as I am a Cranston guy. We are Providence guys, born and bred, and we've lifted ourselves up by that bootstraps, and we've made it great. But I have to tell you sincerely that one of the best, when the good president here asked me to serve on Judiciary, there's always a room full of people, and there's usually a lot of controversy. And one of the things that I love about being on this committee is the advice and consent portion of this committee. And it really gives us an opportunity not to go through the motions, but to really pass on something that is great for the state. And today, it is great for the state. And I applaud Governor Raimondo for reappointing you. I think I use the phrase oftentimes, a no-brainer. But I think that this is a wonderful day. It's a wonderful day for Rhode Island. I think that because we need continuity in the area of law enforcement. And you're gracious to defer to your staff, but your staff is only so good as the leadership that it has. And my experience is both as a senator, but more importantly as a lawyer and as a private citizen, has been that you have led the charge to have a remarkable, nationally recognized law enforcement unit that's a reflection upon its leadership. And in my town, my city particularly, where there was a cloud over my city for a while, the simple answer to dissipating that cloud was a call up the street to Situate and to get you folks involved, and that cloud is now dissipated, and one of your lieutenant colonels is now at the helm, and Cranston Police Department has the national respect that it deserves rightfully. And that's all a reflection upon you, and the door that you have to your office is always open to a phone call and to assist in every way, shape, or form. I see it presently in my law practice and everything, and I overwhelmingly support this advice and consent and support your reappointment to the position. And thank you for your dedication to the state of Rhode Island.
Thank you.
Senator Lynch.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I just wanted to echo the sentiments of those who have spoken before me. I know, Colonel, you know that as we sit here, usually we have people coming up here and complaining about Rhode Island being last in rankings and about how people complain about Rhode Island and how things are not good here. One of the things we can always be proud of is the Rhode Island State Police, and that's not only a testament to you, but also to Colonel Doherty before you, and it's something we can always be proud of. The Rhode Island State Police truly is always there when you need them, and we all appreciate that, and we appreciate what you do. I know you and I have had discussions in the past. We listen to a lot of bills come up here, and there are a lot of times some people that may not always be complimentary of the police. And I know that I said to you directly, I don't strap on a gun or a bulletproof vest when I go to work. So I do appreciate everything that you do and everything that your department does. And I'm proud to have you here and to be able to support your nomination.
Thank you.
Are there any other comments? Senator Nesselbush.
Colonel, I just want to add my voice and say I'm so proud of you and was so happy when I heard that the governor was reappointing you. I have to say that the peace vigil that you, I know, were very involved in, I don't know if it was last week or the week before that, was one of the most moving events that I have ever been at. So I really want to thank you for your work on that peace vigil. And I, too, am so impressed when I see Shinavi and the number of people of color who are here. Obviously, this is not an easy time in law enforcement. The events in Ferguson and New York City, you know, casts a pall on the issue of race relations throughout our nation. And I'm so proud of the Rhode Island State Police, the work that you do, not just at the Peace Vigil, but every day. And, you know, I have to say that the question that I want to ask you is about diversity on our state police. And I know that when Karen Pinch was promoted to captain, that was actually the genesis for the International Women's Day celebration focusing on the highest-ranking women in all the police departments throughout the state. So I want to thank you for that department. You have an outstanding command force, of course. And I just want to ask you, what are your thoughts for the department and for the continued promotion of women and minorities in the future? I know you're committed to it. I know there aren't a lot of spots, but I'm sure, because I know we've had conversations, and this almost follows up on a theme from 4 years ago, if I recall, when we had a similar conversation at your appointment hearing then. So you have my complete support. I'm a big fan. I commend you for so much that you have done. And because you have been able to accomplish such great things for our state and in the department, I know you'll be able to accomplish on that front as well. But do you have some thoughts on what you might, the future of women and minorities in the command staff?
We do. We're asking you to come over to the state police for a few months.
No, as Senator Lynch said, we don't strap on guns or bulletproof vests. I
know. Well, I do. We are in a process right now where we have 147 potential recruits left, and we're waiting on budgetary issues to make sure that happens. Of that, we ensure part of the people you see here today is not just the sustainable programs, is to get to them, and they help find recruits. They go in the community and say, you can trust these people, and if they can come in, they can apply, they go through the process. So we're fully committed to doing that. I don't know what the breakdown will be. I know what the breakdown is now, but after background checks, I don't know what that, and that's something that will come to me, and we'll know. We're committed to promoting women and minorities without question, but we're also more committed to finding them and training them, bringing them on board. They reflect us very well. If you come to a community outreach and you'll see, sometime, I know you've been to a few of them, the members of color, depending on how you want to recognize them, or minorities, they're outstanding men, they're outstanding women. And we try not to, believe it or not, in the state police, mix it, men, women, minorities, they're all troopers. And I know I get your point, I do, but Karen Pinch, she did everything any male sitting to her left did, or behind her. There's nothing she did differently, and she'll tell you that. And if she didn't, she wouldn't feel comfortable. She wouldn't feel that she did what's the right thing. So I don't want you to misconstrue anything when it comes to that. They do exactly what a male, if it's 50 push-ups, she's doing 50. And we wouldn't want any other way, nor would she, because then she wouldn't have the respect of the people. So she sits there with pride, but she's one of many women on the state police that I say get at it. That you should be really proud of that. And also the members of color and our minority troopers, the same thing. They're very proud of what they do. I know you've met them. Some of them are our training academy staff. So we're unbelievably committed, and part of the commitment is the Kobe's of the world who can help us. And I think, knock on wood, Kobe's still got someone he's been mentoring that's still in that process. But they have to make that process, so we're super committed to that. I do want to mention just two things quickly. The history of the state police. There's 4 living colonels, believe it or not. If you think about our history, Colonel Culhane, Colonel Parry, and Colonel Doherty. And I recognized 4 years ago when Colonel Doherty decided to move on. That didn't happen by accident. He went to the governor and said, Governor, this has got to be your guy. That's pretty unusual. So he knows that, and he and I go back for some decades where my life was in his hands and his life was in my hands. So there'll be a time that the mantle will get passed from me, and hopefully the person that comes after me takes it and runs and does a better job than I do. So I want to make sure you guys know that's a small club. And when these troopers retire, and then most of them are term limited in a couple of years, they're in the best club you can possibly be because they left it better than they found it all the time. And that's a wonderful legacy to have. So I can't say that enough. And touch on Ferguson in New York, it's something that's out there. You have to understand cops matter. They really do. And I don't use that word cops because these are Rhode Island State Troopers, but it matters how you think, how you perceive them. And if you're telling, not you personally, but that group of people that sits there and they represent a community, they tell those police. That's what that vigil was about, that they matter because they do a different function. And I didn't take this job, nor did they, just as a cliche, to not go home at night. So that's the game. I think you said that, Senator Metz, when you left our academy. The game is you're going home tonight. So how do we get there? Educate, talk to our people. Our community, much more than Rhode Island State Troopers, have done a better job, really, than we have, educating us. And then we have young troopers in the community, and it's just unbelievable to watch how they respond. And our rank and file, our union, has bought into it. They were all sitting at the vigil with you, understanding how important this is. But you do have to understand that somebody, I was at a spin class with my wife the other day, and the instructor said, you need to go thank a policeman. So someday, and I mean that sincerely, you got to shake their hand and say thank you. And no matter where they work, because there's 900,000 of them that come to work every day and want to do the right thing. They're going to go into a gunfight if that's necessary when you're running away from that, so whatever that's worth.
Are there any other questions or comments? Senator Raptakis.
Not a question, but Colonel, I just want to commend the whole department. You've done an outstanding job. When we compare other states, say Delaware and New Hampshire, same population, but yet the numbers here in this department are very small. I'd like to see one day for those numbers to grow. I know it needs a lot of resources. I know you've done a great job of communicating with my colleagues. We've been to the State Police Barracks headquarters for a tour. I know the Senate President and I had visited some of the barracks. I remember several years ago we had gone to Portsmouth. But I think you really we have to step up to the plate, because I think the department needs additional resources, probably additional maybe manpower for the goals that you have achieved so far. But I commend you what you've done so far. And one picture that really reflects in my mind was in Providence Journal a couple of weeks ago when we saw two members of your department, two of the troopers, with the community. That spoke a lot of volumes. You've done an outstanding job, and I want to thank you for the service to our state.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments? With that, Senator Jabbour.
Thank you, Chair McCaffrey, Madam President, two leaders, Ruggiero and Algier. Before I make a few comments, I want to welcome Doug Kalinda to the committee. Doug, pleasure to see you. And I also want to recognize the Colonel. Colonel, thank you for all your service over the years. It's always good to see you here at the State House. I also want to welcome the Colonel's wife, who many times we see her dining in my district there in Atwells Avenue. You're always welcome to the district. And the Colonel and her are frequent, not flyers, but frequent eaters. Correct, Colonel?
Maybe her more than me, at least on Atwells Avenue.
But I want to comment about your ability to be not just a colonel, but someone that really has some soul and understand what the people of Providence and the state of Rhode Island are all about. I want to share a story. This past summer, we had a real difficult time with crime in Providence. There were murders, there were shootings, there were assaults, and to some degree, the city of Providence needed some help. We had a couple of community meetings. There was some discussion with our chief, Colonel Clements, and Commissioner Parry, and talk of, along with our representative, John Lombardi, who also worked in concert with me on the committee. And the Colonel called me one morning, in fact, also saw me right outside here at the State House a few days later, and said, "How can I help?" And initially there was some discussion about whether we could have the state police come to Atwells Avenue and help us with the situation. Much to everybody's surprise, because I think that most people think of the state police as they're out on the road in their cars and their cruisers, and they don't want to get in on foot in the city. Well, Colonel, let me tell you something. We were honored. The people in that neighborhood felt so safe when the state troopers came to Atwells Avenue and helped the Providence police, and it was a group effort. It was amazing to see how you and the Colonel in Providence, Colonel Clements, worked together with the Commissioner. You brought a lot of stability to that neighborhood at a difficult time. The state police understood the economics of what the avenue, what the economic activity that goes on in that neighborhood, what it means to the state of Rhode Island, and how we were not going to let crime upset what is a very traditional, a very diverse, and a very progressive neighborhood that generates plenty of money for the people of the state of Rhode Island by way of sales tax and revenue and fine dining. And much to the credit, Colonel, of you and the state police and the Providence police, we stabilized that situation. And believe it or not, I think Atwells Avenue is back to normal, much to the credit of the state police and the Providence police. So it was that kind of leadership. It was that kind of your ability to understand what had to be done, your ability to stand away, let Providence begin the process, and your leadership of jumping in and helping. And I think that's why we have a great department and probably the finest department in the country. And at this point, Mr. Chair, if there are no other comments, I would move the advice and consent for the reappointment of Colonel Stephen G. O'Donnell to the Director of the Department of Public Safety.
Senator Jabor moves the advice and consent, seconded by Senator Lynch, Senator Nesselbush, Senator Raptakis, Senator Lombardi, Senator Archibald, Senator Ruggiero, and Senator Metz. All those and President Paiva-Weed, Minority Leader Algier. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The advice and consent is granted. Congratulations. Thank you.